So homework number one on the way, we have a question about what happens to supply and what happens to demand as the price increases or decreases. And so again, as we think about supply and demand, we need to be thinking from the perspective of those specific groups. And so again, supply is the seller and demand is the buyer. And so if we think about what as the price of an item increases, what happens to its supply? So for A, price goes up, what's going to happen to the supply? The person selling them wants to sell more because the price is going up. So as price goes up, so does supply. Because the person selling these things is going, hey, I can make a lot of money. For part B, we're asked the reverse of that. As the price decreases or goes down, what happens to supply? So as price decreases, it becomes less appealing to make these things and try to sell them. So like our example about the corn, if the price of corn goes down, you will not see as many fields planted with corn. You will see something else. And so as the price decreases, so does supply. Part C, we're asked the same question, but this time about demand. And so now we're thinking about this from the perspective of the buyer. So as the price increases, the buyer is less likely to want to buy it. So this is actually the inverse or the opposite of A. So as price goes up, demand goes down. Because as the price goes up, people are not interested in buying as much of it. Again, I mentioned in our examples that gasoline is one thing that seems to not be affected by the price. So anyway, moving on to part D. As the price of an item increases, and that should say decreases right here, folks. I'll make sure that that's fixed before I get this out to you. As price of an item decreases, what happens to demand? So as price goes down, demand goes up. And so this is an example of things going on sale or that sort of thing. As the price goes down, people tend to want to buy more of it. And then lastly, explain the term market equilibrium. So for market equilibrium, supply and demand are equal. There is a fair price and a suitable amount of inventory. And what I mean by a suitable amount of inventory is that there is not so much of this stuff that it's going to be left on the shelves to rot, and there is not so little that people are out there clamoring for it like they were for toilet paper when COVID hit in 2020. So a suitable amount of inventory means there is enough for the amount that people want or need, but not so much that there's a bunch of it left that is not being purchased. That's it for number one.